Good afternoon, Flosstube. It's Caroline from Caroline's Corner here on YouTube. I'm back for a new video. This is video number 41 and it's going to be a recap of everything I've worked on this year so far. With the best will in the world, I singly failed to get back to speak to you during January. January just got too busy. So I'd like to welcome you all back. If you're a returning viewer, it's really nice of you to come back and watch me. If you're a new viewer, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe and leave comments, do all the stuff that's done for Flosstube. Thank you very much. This is a video that is all about my crafts. This time round it's mostly cross stitch and then we'll go on to some knitting at the end. I can be found around on the internet on mostly Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Caroline A. Kemp. I have got other social media, but Instagram is where I share my stitching. Other than that, I made it to half term. It wasn't the easiest term that just gone by because we had a visit from Ofsted at the beginning of February. So we've been expecting them all year, so it's all been quite intense. So we're all hoping breathe a little bit now they've been and gone. Management might relax and we can get on with the actual day-to-day business of education. So I think it went okay. We'll find out in due course. Other than that, not a lot going on. Running around after the kids, trying to stay sane. Arguably, I do or don't do that. I have been to a couple of really nice stitchy events since I last recorded. We had a lovely day retreat with the Yorkshire Stitchers, and I went for the day to the most recent Floss Friends retreat and had a lovely time at both events. Just nice to kick back and spend a day stitching with friends. So let's get into what I've been doing for the last since the end of December. I actually have a major finished object to share with you. Back in 2016, I took a class in London at Hanging by a Thread, 2006, not 2016, 2006, I took a class with Hanging by a Thread, which was Susan and Sarah Albury, with C.A. Wells. Susan used to put these classes on in London. This was the 10th anniversary in 2006 of CA coming over to teach for her. So CA designed this three-sided reticule for the class. So yes, so the class was in 2006. Because it was a very new design, we didn't get any pre-stitching, so we just got kit in the class. So I started stitching in the class in 2006. I finished the stitching in 2021. Yeah, it's been a while, and I finally got it finished over Christmas. As you know, if you've been here any length of time, you'll have seen me stitching on this because I was recording Flosstubes in 2021. I was was I going to say? Like, and you will also know that I do a lot of sort of sets of smalls that were classes, and so I have a goal of always finishing up at least one set every year, and this was this year's set. This was the oldest that was still waiting to be finished. So CA based it on a Lauderay macaron box. They it's the triangular case that they put their macarons in. So yeah, so I'm not sure on the count of the fabric. It's stitched with silks. There's a water lilies, which is succotash, and then I think they're probably Karen or Soie d'Alger. CA wasn't great at telling us what she used. So you've got the outer case, and then the inside you've got little pockets to put some tools in, and in the middle, if I can pull it out, is a smaller case that's a little pinkish in, and it acts as a scissor fob. So I think the string's a little bit long, but I wasn't going to go back and adjust it. Now on the scissor fob, I stitched 2020 because I expected to finish the stitching in 2020, but it didn't happen. And this gives you a better idea of what's inside. There's some little silk pockets. So the kit came with an awl and a wooden ruler, you say, and a pocket for your scissors. And CA somewhere I managed to get some Lauderay ribbon, which we used at the bottom. So I'm very, very pleased to have got this finished, not least because it was a right pain in the backside to finish, because it was a new design, so CA hadn't thought through everything until she was actually physically putting it together. So there were lots of, right, scribble that bit out and write it down. And by that stage, her instructions were getting very sketchy because she was worried about, she didn't like people reselling her stuff. So yeah, so I think it was more a case of I finished this despite CA rather than with her help, because she obviously didn't expect people to be taking over 15 years to get them finished. In fact, almost 20 years to get it finished. Now, alongside the case, she sold a little kit to line a Lauderay almond box. Actually, I think it's the almonds that get sold in these boxes. These, yes. This is for the almonds, but Lauderay are best known for the macarons. That's what I know them for anyway. So a Lauderay box. When we had the class, because it was the 10th anniversary, we all went for afternoon tea afterwards at Harrods in the Lauderay tea room, and then we went down to the shop and bought almonds and macarons and things. And because I bought the kit to line the box, I bought a box of almonds. So there's a stitch band that goes round the outside, and the top has a cartouche with my initials. So the band says "Celebrate with Tea at Lauderay, London, 2016." 2006. And you put together a little pin cushion and just line the box. So that's that one finally finished, and it's really nice to have it in my curio cabinet with all the rest of my smalls. And that's probably the last of CA's kits, because I finished the class I took with her after I did that one. I think the last class I took with CA was the drawstring bag, which I finished a couple of years ago, if you were around on my videos then. And shortly after that she stopped teaching altogether and just disappeared off the scene. So I don't know. Anyway, very pleased to have them done. Quite nice. So it's nice to admire them. And on to what I've been stitching. So that was finished over the Christmas holidays, because it tends to be the holidays period when I get a chance to sit down, especially over Christmas, because the weather's rubbish and you're not going anywhere. Or if we've not got too much, we tend to hibernate a bit. So it's nice to be able to get things like that finished then. I've got the time to sit down and do them. So on to what I've been stitching. So first up is my focus piece. So this is another class that I took with Susan Aubrey in London, only this one was in 2013. And this is by Lauren Sauer, Forget Me Nots in Stitches. This was actually the last weekend I got to go to anything Susan has organised. And this is a sewing case that Lauren had originally designed for Williamsburg, because she used to teach regularly at the events at Williamsburg, and it's called Along the James River, Williamsburg Bound. And so class was in 2013. So I got most of this outside of the case stitched before the class. Since then, I've stitched the inside of the case, and what I've been working on recently to get finished is the pockets that go in the inside. It's colour photocopy so you can see. So that's the inside of the case, and where the basting is where the pockets are going to go. So there's two hidden pockets. I mean, they're actually upside down because of the way I pin my fabric, but that's because. And then you've got the two flame stitch pockets that go over the top. When you last saw this, I was working on that pocket, which I absolutely love the finished thing. Since then, it's had a couple of goes around in my rotation. First time round I got that pocket finished, all the non-stitch around the outside, and started on this flame stitch pocket. And in my most recent round I got more of the barge yellow done, got this pocket completely outlined in the non-stitch, and got one of the two gussets for the pocket stitch non-stitched as well. What I am doing with this piece, because I find non-stitch quite tedious, I mean it's great, but I find it really tedious to do, is I'm doing a length of floss on non-stitch, and then I'm rewarding myself with a bit of a barge yellow in order to make sure that it gets done, because if I leave all the non-stitch to the end, ain't gonna happen. So next time this comes up in my rotation, I'm expecting to finish it, because all I've got to finish is the second one of these gussets, because I think it's this pocket is gusseted, and then just the barge yellow, So as I've said in my previous Flosstubes, this year I'm doing a 10-hour rotation. So 10 hours on this, we'll see this one finished, finally, after 12 years. And then it can go on the rapidly increasing pile of stuff I need to spend some quality finishing time with. It ain't going to be this year because I've got 2 other pieces ahead of it in the queue. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting this finished. So I'll just give you a close-up of the house panel because that is absolutely gorgeous. And it'll be really nice when I get this one done, fully done. I'm not sure what counter linen it is, but I think it's just some natural linen, but it's being stitched in a mixture of sampler threads, water lilies, and all the barge yellow is done in Caron Soie Cristal, which is what gives the barge yellow the lovely sheen that it's got. Just leave my notes so I can see them. So that is along the James River, Williamsburg bound. And next time you see this, it will be done. Well, the stitching will be done anyway. Last time I recorded, when I was talking about the smalls, I was saying I was stitching a piece for an exchange. Well, I stitched the piece, I finished it. I forgot to take it with me, didn't I? So I have an ornament for my tree instead. So this, I'll put it on the board, is the small I was stitching for the exchange. It was a winter themed. So what I decided to stitch was a snowflake ornament from a leaflet put out by the Stitchery Sisters. Now they offered this free to anyone who is on their mailing list, so which was a lovely gift. I stitched. There's 3 different snowflakes, so I'll have to go back and do the other 2 at some point. I stitched this on, I think it's 28 count Lugana, opalescent Lugana, and it's by the original silk weaver. So this is from very, very deep stash, this fabric. And the colourway is called Robin's Egg. It's one of those pieces of fabric, I've got quite a few, I need to go through them, that I wouldn't normally stitch because I don't really stitch the sort of stuff that goes on opalescent fabric, but really worked for this this particular design. So yeah, and I used Anchor White because I had some Anchor White basically. As I said, finished it as a little flat ornament, did beaded edging. So yeah, that'll go on my tree next year. One of those things when I forgot it for the exchange. So yeah. So that was the first small. So it was a start and a finish. I finished it. I finished the stitching on the 30th of December last year. So, and then so it's been finished this year. So when I last recorded, which was my whip parade, I was in the process of working on a new start because I'd had a couple of medium-sized finishes. So the new start I was working on was the Gingerbread Sewing House by Stacey Nash Designs, which was an exclusive design to the Jingle Ball last year. It was a class that Stacey ran. I signed up for the class because I thought it was very cute, and I didn't stay up because the class was running at about midnight 1 o'clock my time, but I did watch it back later. So yes, I decided to start stitching this one, and this is where I got to. You'll notice if you watch my whip parade, you'll see I'm a bit further on than I was when I recorded that one. I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count Autumn Girl by Lakeside Linens, which again is from Very Deep Stash. When Lakeside first started dyeing in the early 2000s, I was in the Silk Weaver Fabric of the Month Club, and they offered a Lakeside option, which was the only way you could get it in the UK back then. I mean, it's been 20 years since I was in the Silk Weaver Fabric of the Month Club, so that gives you an idea just how old some of this stuff is, and it is well overdue getting used. Anyway, I thought it was about perfect colour for gingerbread, really. So this was my first 10 hours on this piece, and I've gotten about halfway down the front. So when you last saw it, I think I was working on that window and I didn't have the window swags underneath it. So yeah, I'm using the Called for Weeks dye works on it, and I think it's coming up beautifully. Really enjoyed working on this over the Christmas holidays. So we'll see when it comes up again when I spin the wheel. How I'm deciding, other than my small piece and my focus piece, my large and mediums, I'm just using a tiny decisions wheel and spinning that every time for it to decide what I'm going to work on. So we'll see when this comes back up. So the first large piece for my new rotation that came up was Catherine Finlayson by Jeanette Douglas Designs. Now, if you remember, I took this class with Jeanette at Fobbles last year at the end of May, and it's for this lovely reproduction sampler, and there is a set of smalls to go with it, but I didn't pull them out this time. This is some of the threads because I'm only putting them on floss drops when I need them, and I haven't got to needing all the different colours yet. And this is where I got to. I will input a picture of where I started. With this one, and I will input it, and I'm very pleased with my progress. I was just working on page 1 of the chart, so I've got the border in. So when I picked it up, I'd got that little berry bowl in, I'd got the border outlined, and I'd got the first 2 letters of the alphabet. So everything else got done in this rotation round, and I only have I've got 1 or 2 more letters to do and a band underneath, and that's me finished page 1 of the chart. Still got quite a ways to go, obviously. This is 36 count, picture this plus fabric. I can't remember because I forgot to look which fabric it is. I say all this, and the threads are mostly a Vera Soie. I think there might be a needlepoint silk in there somewhere, just to for the right colour. It's going to be lovely when it's done, but I'm very pleased with my progress. Obviously, might have gotten a bit further had I not been doing all those eyelets. I did contemplate just going straight across the top, but I thought I'll do page 1 and then it'll and then just move across a page at a time until I get to the motif section underneath. So yeah, that's Catherine Finlayson. It's nice to get her a bit further on. So she's still under a year since I started, so that's not bad progress on her compared to some of the others I've got on the go. So then it was on to another small project, and the small that I picked up to stitch was the Octagonal Pin Key by Haystack Stitching. This was a gift to all the attendees at the Big Stitch 2024. This is in our goodie bag. It was a gift from Caroline. So, pardon me, I got it stitched. Not only have I stitched it, I finished it as well. That's 3 fully finished objects this video. Don't get used to it. Yeah, so I was actually in to Caroline suggests doing playing around with your floss. This floss colour is a Gloriana silk. It's called Cotswold Garden. It's beautiful variegated floss. Caroline suggests playing around with it, so I was drawing on my memory of C.A. Wells classes and doing some colour sequencing. So what C.A. used to get you to do, I'll show you on here, was to think about how you use your overdyed threads. So she'd always say start in the middle with one strand and work out, then use the same, you know, pull 2 strands out, send one that way, send one that way. On these little wreaths, stitch up one side, stitch up the other. Again, just so you'd mirror the colour changes in your overdye, which is something that kind of gets automatic to me now a little bit if I'm using overdyed threads and it's a symmetrical design, which that one is. So, you know, I used 4 of the, so I'd pull a thread and do 4, the same 4 bits in the middle, stitched all these bits using the same bits of thread, and the flowers the same. So yeah, and so finished it as a pin keep on the back with the felt. So everything to make this we were gifted, and I'm very pleased with how it's turned out. I think it's a lovely little finish and nice to get it off the pile and on into my display cabinet. So yeah, it's one of the reasons for structuring a little bit about how I'm doing things, try and get some finishes, finish some stuff. So yeah, speaking of which, on my medium sized piece that came up next, that came up on my Tiny Decisions wheel, well, it's also a finish, and that's a needlework garden and needlebook by Old Colonial Designs. I bought this when it came out, just after it came out in about 2006. I think I bought it in a Super Bowl sale from Silver Needle. And I bought the basket, which has been sat on the shelf ever since. chart and all the materials needed to kit it up. It came with the finishing material, so the next job is to put it all together. So this is my finished stitching. This goes in the base of the basket. The needle book gets attached to in this gap here. As I say, it's all in the base of the basket. Very pleased to have this one done. Once I finally got cracking with it, it didn't take very long to do, really. To say I started it this was a mania start in 2001. Yeah. And remained not a lot stitched until I picked it up to work on, because I did whip go on my small to medium pieces last year, when, I mean, I'll put in a picture of where I was, but I just got this bottom bit done, and the vase was all I had. So this time around, I put in all the flowers and then stitch the needle case. It's all stitched on 32 count summer khaki linen and a mix of Gentle Art and Weeks Dye Works threads, which I can't show you because I'll put them away. Put them back. Got them into stash now. So yeah, it's going to be nice to have this off the shelf and finished and ready to use. I've actually got another couple of the pieces that go in this set. There's a thread palette and a ort jar, which I've already stitched them quite a long time ago. I never got round to getting the remainder of the pieces because I had kids and didn't have the money to be buying from the States at that point. So, but it's not the end of the world. Quite happy with what I've got. Then for my large project in that rotation round, I spun the wheel and it pulled up with our needle and thread Lessons in Abecedarian Schoolhouse Summer Schoolhouse series. This is down as a large project because I have all the charts and I put them all in. So I'm just going to work my way, counting as one whip, all 5 pieces in this series. Well, is it 5? Well, I think it's 6 or 7 actually, because there's all 5 pillows, and then there's the strawberry and hornbook. Hornbook will probably get finished as a pillow as well because I don't have a hornbook. Anyway, I'm working on pillow number 1 and got a fair bit of progress on it. I'll put in a picture of where I was when I picked it up. And this is where I got to. Very, very pleased to almost have the house finished. I have, so a good chunk of my time was spent stitching on the house and filling that in. This is being stitched on the call for Mushroom Lugana with the call for overdyed cottons. Now they are a mix of Weeks Dye Works, Classic Colourworks and Gentle Art. So yeah, so what I would do is alternate stitching a thread in the house with doing something a little more fun, hence the bird is outlined, that branch is outlined. I made a start on the board, I made a little start on the alphabet, made a start on the strawberry that the bird is sitting on, just so I didn't get totally bogged down in the tedium of filling in the house. And I am really pleased with where I got to after 10 hours working on that one. So I actually went to the Floss Friends retreat with me, and I did a bit of fill-in while I was chatting to people. But yeah, really, really pleased with that one. Nice to see solid progress. That was started in 2022, March 2022. So after 3 years, that's how far I've got. And now we're on to my current rotation round. So the small that I decided to pick up is a Blackbird Designs, and it's called On the Older Bough, which is this little design to go on top of a box. Now this is one of the designs that is in the Thy Love More Strong book. I have it as a standalone chart because it was one of the retreat pieces at the Shepherd's Bush retreat a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine went to the Shepherd's Bush retreat and passed on to me the Blackbird, a few of the charts that she was never going to stitch because they weren't her thing. So one of the ones she gave me was this one, and the companion piece, Thy Love More Strong. And here is where I got to after 10 hours. So this is small that's going to take another round. But another round should see it finished because I'm past, I reckon, past the halfway point on this one. I am stitching it on a scrap of 40 count Affogato linen using the called for Wheats Dye Works, Classic Colourworks and Gentle Art threads. So that's the chart picture for comparison. So quite enjoyed working on that one. It's a little fiddly, but I changed the date to 1891 because that's the date my house was built, rather than the date that Elmer had put on the chart. I'm very happy with how it's coming out. There was a fair bit of frogging in up here because I just couldn't count for some reason. So yeah, so the next rotation round through, we should see that one finished. Because as you know, I'm working on the small pieces until they get done. And here are the threads. And then onto my medium piece. Well, it's not really a medium, it's quite a small piece, but it's over one, so it classes as a medium piece, and it's one that I hadn't finished from. I didn't get finished last year. It's a Quaker Hornbook by Ellen Chester, With My Needles, sorry. It was a piece she designed for guilds. So if you had a guild, you could order it. The Sampler Guild in the UK was who put in an order. That's when I got it. I don't remember when it came out, but it was a long time ago. Had it a long time. And I finished it this morning. The nice thing about being at half term is I can stitch in the mornings. And here we are. I'll put in a picture of where I was. But basically I had all of that. So what I've done is gone up this side and I've put the alphabet and the numbers in, which was all that was left to do. It was stitched on a piece of random scrap of 32 count linen that I had in my stash. It's actually looks like it's printed on one side, so but I preferred the non-printed side, so I did it on that because it was just the right size. And I stitched it on using Gloriana in the colourway Pacific Blue, which is this colourway. Now, the chart came with two options. You could stitch it over 2 on 30, a version 30 over 2 on 36 count, or over 1 on 32 count, and I went for the over 1 on 32 count. And when you ordered the chart, the horn book came with it. So at some point, that hopefully this year, I will get that mounted on the horn book. But I'm really pleased that so far this year I finished 2 long-term whips off, as well as my new starts, because I started that one in the horn book in 2022. So again, so that was, yeah, April 2022 I started the horn book. So yeah, which brings me on to my plans. So tonight, when I sit down to stitch, my large project for this rotation round is Florence Mary Dickinson. So Florence Mary will get 10 hours worth of stitching. So my plan is to work on this big flower motif and the border. And here is where I am on Florence Mary. I've got all the border vine done. So I'm now starting to fill in, because as various other people have commented, it's quite a fiddly border with several colour changes. So I'm going to start doing that big flower motif to get a bit more done in the middle, and I'm going to keep working on this border to get a bit more of it, because each little bit is 3 or 4 colours. There's 2 colours of green and 2 colours of either red or blue in each flower and this border. So it's kind of fiddly, so I want to work on that as I go. And like I say, start putting one of the larger motifs in, so I feel like I'm getting somewhere. So expect to see a fair bit of progress next time I record, because on Florence Mary. This is 40 count tabby cat creme brulee linen that came with the kit. This was a exclusive design from Hobby House Needleworks. I bought the full kit from them. So, and I got mine kitted up with DMC. I generally do go for the cottons option if I'm buying exclusive from overseas, just because that brings it in under the customs duty for the UK, so I don't get stung. I'm much less likely to get stung for customs charges, which is a consideration. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting some more done on Florence Mary, because she didn't come out at all last year, so it's going to be nice to get a chunk done on her. So other than working on Florence Mary Dickinson, that'll finish off this rotation round. So the next rotation round will be, I'll finish on the Alder Bow, I'll finish along the James River. And because I've had 2 finishes of existing whips, I can have a new start. So I spun, I've got potential new starts on a wheel as well. I spun that wheel. It came up with I Love More Strong by Blackbird Designs. My Tiny Decisions wheel is determined I'm stitching on Blackbird Designs this year. So anyway, yes. And because that was a gift, I'm really pleased to get that started. Yeah, so 10 hours in on that one. And then the large project for that rotation round, I spun my wheel, and it is Anne Grant by Shakespeare's Peddler, which I got a good chunk done on Anne Grant last year, so it's going to be nice to get back to her and get a bit more done, because I was working on the border for Anne. I think I got it from a tiny bit of border to quite a lot of border done, because it's quite an involved border. So that would be nice. Yeah, might even get a bit of the middle done on Anne. I think there was a few rows of some alphabet at the top. I might make a start on those. So that's it for my stitching plans. I haven't a huge amount of stash because I am going to a quilting retreat in April. I'm going back to the Modern Quilt Club quilting retreat. If you have been here a while, you'll know I went last year. So I'm paying for that at the moment. I have also been lucky enough to get a place on Peakside Needleworks weekend with Heartstring Samplery, which I'm really looking forward to. So again, paying for that. I did succumb to the Scarlet House exclusive with Hobby House. That hasn't shipped yet, so my only other bit of stash was one of the teachers at the Floss Friends retreat was Whilst Iris Naps, and she had a stall. So in between having a really good natter with Christina, I took the opportunity to pick up Matilda Isabella Creasy, because I've been meaning to get this sampler since Christina released it. So she had models of quite a few, and it was lovely to see the model of Mary Gibson, of which I've only got a tiny start, so I'm really hoping that comes up in my rotation this year. But yeah, so I got the model for Matilda Creasy. Now Christina's class that she was teaching was about how to, she does these wonderful spool finishes, was how she does her spool finishes, and she had a load of antique spools and bobbins for sale, so I picked up one. I have a couple which are more bobbins, smaller ones, and so I wanted a thicker one, so I will have to get something finished. I've got a couple of things earmarked for finishing on the tiny spools I've got, the thinner spools I've got, but I just haven't got around to finishing on them yet, so I will have to get on to stitching on sorting those out when I get a bit of time. So that is the cross stitch part of the video over, and I have a tiny bit of knitting to share, because I've actually managed to do a bit of knitting. I think I mentioned this in my last video, that I was doing a bit of knitting while I wasn't at work, because I can't use a mouse. I've still got nerve problems in my hand, and I can't use a mouse and do a lot of knitting at the same time. It just, I can do one or the other. Joys of getting older. But I think I mentioned last time I was working on my hive shawl, and I said then I planned on getting it finished over Christmas, and I did, and got it cast off. I have blocked it. So this is the finished hive shawl. I honestly can't remember when I started it. It's been on the go for well over a year, if not 2, because of the problem. I think I started it before I had the problems with my wrist. Yeah, So it's taken a long time, especially once I got into the longer rows down the bottom. This was a shawl by Marna Gilligan. She did a series of seasonal sports shawls, of which I've got 3 of them. I didn't buy, she did the pattern and kit with the yarn. I didn't get autumn because the colours she used for autumn weren't mine, but I will probably get it with a different colourway at some point. And it used her own Ancat and Dub, which I have just massacred the Gallic yarn. Her company is Ancat and Berg. So I got the colourways Take Me for a Walk in the Morning Dew. It's Cat in Fluff and Cat in Silk. So it's a lovely, I don't know how well it's going to come up. It's very delicate shades of grey and pale green. So obviously the silk is used for the body, and then you get down to the border, it's a mix of the silk and the mohair in this honeycomb pattern. So yeah, so that's my shawl finished. I haven't cast on a new one yet. I have no shortage of potential cast ons because I'm not knitting very much. I've got a scrappy blanket and I want to get that finished first before I cast on anything else. So the only other thing I have on the needles is a pair of socks, and it is by Curious Handmade. This is from one of the sock societies that she did, and it's called Rainy Window Socks. I have finished one sock. Show you it has a sort of a raindrops down a window pattern down the front. And when I was on holiday in Greece last year, I cast on the second sock. So these are being knit in a yarn from the Knitting Goddess, who is sadly no longer dying. This colourway is called Superhero Jeans, which was a charity colourway she did at one point, and really enjoying knitting in them, and I think it's knitting up really beautifully. So yeah, so they just get picked up and worked on when I need something for even if it's just a row or 2 at a time, because in a meeting or something. But yeah, so that's everything I've got to share with you. I hope everyone's having as good a year as you possibly can so far. Will probably not be able to record again until we get to the Easter holidays, which is very beginning of April. So, it's not that long ago, 6 weeks. Quite short terms once we get past Christmas, thankfully. So yeah, so I hope you have enjoyed what you've seen. Don't get used to the finishes because there probably won't be quite so many going for. Certainly not going to be any. Well, there'll be one in my next rotation round, but I don't know. See what comes up. It's nice to get some of these long-term projects finishes. Actually, there's going to be 2 because I'm going to finish James River. Yeah. So anyway, hope you enjoy your stitching, your knitting, whatever, and I will see you again in April. So thank you very much for watching, hanging in with me, and I really appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Bye.